Test for review. So the very first two questions, it asks you to find the numerical value of each rational expression for A, x equals -2, and B, x equals 4. So that's just straight plug in, okay? And honestly, I would make sure I type it in the calculator. Just make sure you got signs right, order of operations right. You don't want to miss 1 and 2 based on how you plugged it in, okay? So on number 1, if we allow x to equal -2 into x squared over x minus 5, then we would have, and I like to put what I plug in parentheses, but -2 squared gives you a positive 4. And then on the bottom, that's -2 minus 5. Same sign you add, and that makes that a -7. Now, 4 over 7 can't be reduced, but the only thing I would do is bring the negative to the what? Top or to the side. So that gives you a -4/7. Okay? Do y'all see that? Just straight plug in. Then it wants you to allow x to be what? +4 into that same expression. So we're going to plug in +4. That will be 4 squared over 4 minus 5. So that's what? 16 over -1. And that just reduces to what? -16. Y'all see that? Just straight plug in. Questions on number 1? Okay. Number 2, you got the expression 4x minus 3 over 5x plus 2. And again, we still going to allow x to be -2 and +4. So if I plug in -2 into that expression, just watch your signs. When I multiply, that's what? -8 minus 3 over a -10 plus 2. When you plug in -2. So on top, same sign add. I would type that in my calculator if you don't remember same sign add. -8 minus 3 is a -11. And then -10 plus 2 is -8, and 11 over 8 doesn't reduce, but I do need to change it to a what? A positive. You do need to know that. 2 negatives make a positive. So that would be 11/8. And then we're going to plug in 4. So that will give us what? 16 minus 3 over 20 plus 2. 16 minus 3 is just, and then 20 plus 2. And does 13 over 22 reduce? No. Do y'all see? Now that's just straight plugging in. Questions on that? Is that okay? That should be easy peasy. Okay. Now 3 through 7 is where we just only look at the denominator, and you tell me what values make that expression undefined. That's how I worded it in the instructions. Now the way I have it set up on test, your blank will already be x cannot equal. So all you got to do is put the number in there. Does that make sense? I already have the x cannot equal sign. So on number 3, my focus is not even on the top. I'm not going to write the top because that's not my focus. Your focus is only the denominator. So what can x not be on number 3? Obviously +3. So that's what I'm looking for. X cannot equal 3. On 4, your denominator is 4x plus 3. What can x not equal? How do you figure it out if you can't eyeball it? Y'all should be able to eyeball it. -3 over 4. But if you can't see that's negative 3/4, you need to do what? Set it equal to 0. Exactly. Go over to the side, set that equal to 0. Do your two-step equation. Get x by itself. But our answer is going to end up being that x cannot be a negative 3/4. Does everyone see that? Okay. Number 5, our denominator is x squared minus 121. What's that on the bottom? Difference of squares, okay? That's something you're going to have to factor. When you start seeing x squared, that should be red flag. I'm going to do some type of factoring. That's difference of squares. And so, what's the square root of 121? 11. 11. One positive and one what? Negative. So that means that x cannot equal who? Negative 11 or 11. And that's what you would put in the blank, both numbers. Okay, that one has two answers. Number 6, your denominator just has a 2 on the bottom. It would never be undefined. Why? The bottom is never going to cancel out to 0. Very good. The biggest thing is noticing that it don't even have a variable down there. X ain't even on the bottom. So you don't have that fear of the bottom turning to a 0. So your answer is going to be never undefined. Does that make sense? And then 7, our denominator is x squared minus 2x minus 3. Going to have to factor that. I'm subtracting to get that negative 2. And the only pair I can use is 3 and 1, 1 and 3. Who's negative though? My 3. 1 is positive. So what can x not equal? Positive 3 nor negative 1. Very good. Y'all see that? And again, it's the opposite of what's in those parentheses. Or like we said, even on the one that had a fraction, you got to just set it equal to 0. Set each parenthesis, whatever's on the bottom, equal to 0. That way you'll see what x can't equal. Does that make sense? Now the first 7 now, you should have down pat. No careless on the first 7. I don't want any careless on the whole test, but definitely not the first 7. Does everybody follow me? Okay. Now, starting, well, really on 3 through 7, I can give you any factor. Like I did a difference of squares, I gave you a trinomial. So keep in mind, look for what type of factoring is this, because that's a biggie on this test. Starting on number 8, 9, and 10, you're going to write in lowest terms, which you got to do some type of factoring, okay? Number 8 is the exception because that's just a monomial. So you got to remember your exponent rows, all right? So on number 8, we have 5 x to the third, y to the third, over 15 x to the fourth, y squared. So what I was saying, this is a monomial. Everybody up there is single. You don't have no plus or minus signs joining anything. So this is just straight. I'm going to just reduce 5/15, and then what you do with your x's and your y's. You're going to subtract. Good, because that's what division. When you got the same base in division, you subtract your exponents, okay? So that's going to be your x's and your y's. So let's go ahead with 5/15. That reduces to what? 1/3. And then you're going to look at your x's. You got a 3 and a 4. If I subtract it, the difference is 1, but where is it going to go? On the bottom. Very good. And the reason is, who's on the bottom? The bigger number, 4 is. With my y's, you're going to do the same thing. What's your difference? Y, but it's on the what? On the top, because 3 is bigger than 2. Does that make sense? So your answer, now you don't have to tell me the 1 on top. You could write it just y over 3x. That's the same answer. If you write 1/3 or just the y, both of them are correct. Yes, it does. Everybody good with number 8, where you just strictly reduce your fraction and then subtract, in this case, because it's top and bottom. Now, what if I would have put 2 variables, like both of my x's, if that x to the 4th was sitting on top with x to the 3rd, what operation would you do? Addition, you add. Same base, side by side, remember you got to add. Okay? Number 9, bless you. Let me go to another screen. (64x to the 3rd plus 27 over 16x squared minus 9. GCFs? Do I have GCF on top? What's the GCF on top? Oh, what's the GCF on the bottom? Bottom is difference of squares. There's not a GCF on top nor bottom. What's the top? Sum of cubes. Sum of cubes. So you got a cube and you got a difference of squares. So y'all see that. So you gotta, I'm trying to make sure, I'm letting you know everything is game on this test. You gotta remember how to factor cubes. Okay? So, factoring our cubes, we put the root in the first parenthesis. What's the cube root of 64? Now, y'all, did I give y'all a yellow sheet? You can use it if you don't know it. What's the cube root? Not square root, cube root of 64. 4. It's 4. So that's the first number. You bring down an x. You bring down a plus sign. You mimic that problem. And what's the cube of 27? 3. That one has to go in the first parenthesis. That's your roots, right? Then we're going to do square, multiply square. Very good. And I'm just going to write this down here just in case you don't remember what square, multiply square means. But when you square the first term, you're going to multiply 4x times 4x, which is a what? A 16x. What? Squared. Good. That's 16x squared. Then you're going to multiply the two terms together. 4x times 3 is 12x. That's your second term. Then you're going to square the second term, which is 3. 3 squared is 9. You need to know how to get those 3 numbers. Those 3 terms. Now, the rule for our signs, if I gave you the sum, then your negative can only go where? On that 12x. And you got to remember, you can only have how many negatives? 1. That's it. That 9 has to be positive. And kind of look at it as the signs alternate. Plus, minus, plus. Okay? Now, that's it for the top. Now, you did all that just to factor a cube. You're not finished because the bottom, you got to tackle it. Y'all said that's the difference of squares? So that factors into what? Good. 4x plus and minus 3. Right? Square root of 16 is 4 and the square root of 9 is 3. Now, this is the concept for this chapter. Who cancels? The 4x plus 3. That's who cancels. So your answer is 16x squared minus 12x plus 9 over 4x what? Minus 3. Do y'all see that? Questions? Okay. 10. 4p squared plus 8p cubed minus 5q squared all over 10p squared minus 3pq minus q squared. Now, looking at that top and that bottom is just a what? Just a basic factor trinomial. That's just two trinomials, right? Now you got some extra variables, meaning I got numbers in the front as well as in the what? Back. So I would go ahead and stick them in there because you might leave them off. And I take off of stuff like that because it's part of your answer, okay? So leave a little room in the front, but you know you're going to have P's in the front and who in the back? Q's. I would personally go and stick them in there so I won't forget them. And then on that top one, we are subtracting to get 8. Now you do know in the back you don't have no option. 5 is only one factor pair. So I'm going to go and stick 5 and 1 in there. And I put the 1 there so I won't forget that there's a number back there. Now in the front, are we going to use 1 and 4 or 2 and 2? 2 and 2 because we're trying to get 8 and I see 10. So 2 and 2. And what I was saying is make sure you check this. That's 10 and a 2. Will that subtract and make 8? Yes. Okay. Now you want to make sure your signs are right because you could cross out the wrong stuff. 8 is positive. So the 10 or the 2 got to be positive. 10. You made 10 by saying 5 times 2. And your 1, because that's how you made 2, is going to be negative. Take your time. If you're still not strong on factor, you better go on the side and check that. It's your test. Take the time and check that factor. Now on the bottom, we are subtracting to get 3. And in the back, you don't have nothing but some 1s. Right? So that means I'm using who from 10? That's going to make a 3. 5 and 2. Very good. 5 and 2 will subtract and make 3. Does that make sense? So I'm going to put 5 on one of them, 2 on the other. And that's going to give us 5PQ and 2PQ. Which one going to have to be negative, the 5 or the 2? The who? The 5, right? Your bigger product going to have to be, so 5 is going to have to be the one that's negative. And you make the 5 by saying 5 times this one on my screen. I don't know how you wrote it on yours. And then the 1 times 2 going to have to be plus. So now who cancels? 2p minus q. So we're left with, on top, 2p plus over, very good, over 5p plus q. Yeah, I see that. Okay. Next, 11 through 14 is multiply or divide, which is still reducing some type of way through factoring, okay? So on 11, we got 2x plus 3 over x minus 4 times x squared minus 16 over 6x plus 9. Now, looking at the first fraction, the 2x plus 3 and the x minus 4, there's nothing for you to do. Your reducing got to come off the second fraction. Do y'all see that? So I'm just going to rewrite 2x plus 3 over x minus 4. But when I get to the top of this second fraction, what is that? Difference of squares. So that's going to be Good. X plus and minus 4. And then what do you have on the bottom of it? GCF. Good. And which is? 3. Good. So what's left? Very good. 2x plus 3. Now, who cancels? 2x plus 3 and x minus 4. Awesome. So we're left with, very good. That's your answer. Yeah, I see that. Okay. 12. This one is a division problem, so that means what? You're going to flip the second one, okay? So keep that in mind with division. Make sure you flip that second one. So before, when I get to the second one, I'll flip it, but the first one needs to be what? Factored. It needs to be factored. So the top, we are adding to get that negative 6. 4 and 2, and both negative, because when you add, same sign. Good. On the bottom, we are subtracting to get that 3. 3 and 6, who's positive? 6 with a negative 3, right? Now we're going to change it to multiplication, and we're going to bring the x plus 6 to the top, and x minus 4 goes to the bottom. Now who cancels? X plus 6 and x minus 4. So our answer is, very good, x minus 2 over x minus 3. Y'all see that? Okay, still okay? 13. Looks like all trinomials to me. What y'all think? Just all factor? So here we go. On this top one, we're adding to get 13. And in the front, we can't use nothing but what, 2 and 1? I'm just making all my little parentheses. 2x and 1x. So out of 20, you got a couple of options. You got 2 and 10, and you also, but you can't use, can you use 2 and 10? No, why? Neither one of them can sit in there with 2x, good. So what, 4 and 5? And 4 got to go where? With the x, good. It can't sit in there with 2. Will that work? 8 and a 5, will that add to 13? Yes. And both of them positive? Good deal. On the bottom, we're subtracting to get that 1. 4 and 3, who's positive? 4, 3's negative. Good. On the top, we're subtracting to get 2. Who? 3 and 5, who's positive? 5, 3 is negative. Good. And then on the bottom, we're adding, and in the front, we can't use but 2x and 1x, and in the back, you can't use with 1 and 5, but I'm going to put the 5 with my 2, so I can add that up. 2x and 5x make 7x, and both of them positive. And again, I'm going to keep stressing, if you need to go over to the side and factor this, you need to do that. Okay? You have your entire class period to take this test. It's only 20 problems. You need to go to the side and factor, especially the ones that's got like 2x in the front, or if there's a number in the front, okay? Now who cancels? 2x plus 5, x minus 3, x plus 4, good. So we left with x plus 5 over x plus 1. Yeah, I see that. Okay. 14. Another division. So we're going to do what? Flip that second one. Okay. So when I get there, we'll flip it, but its top look like a, what, this basic trinomial factor. And we're subtracting. And I don't have any options but 3x and x in the front. And who in the back? 2 and 1, and I put the 2 across from the 3 because I need 6 and a 1 to subtract and make 5, right? Okay. And who's going to be positive, 6 or 1? 6. So that means my 2 got to be positive and my 1 is going to be negative, right? Now what's that on the bottom? Difference of squares, good. So that factors into, very good, 3x plus and minus 1. Change it to multiplication, and now your bottom is your top. And it looks like the second one is just what, trinomial? So we're looking at the 9x squared plus 6x plus 1. I'm adding. And I would hope that you could obviously see if I'm putting 1s in the back, I got to use who in the front? 3x, because 3x and 3x add up to 6x, right? And both of them positive. And then on the top, which is your new bottom, you're adding to get 5. So we got x and what, 2 and 3? And both of them positive. So who cancels? 3x minus 1, 3x plus 1, and 3x plus 2. Y'all do know that 3x plus 1 is 2 of them on top, but that ain't a 2 for 1 deal. You do know you only cancel 1 for 1. So that gives us 3x plus 1 over x plus 3. Very good. Now, question about that section, multiplying and dividing. They kind of work the same, it's just you got to remember on division to flip the second one. But you still got to know how to factor. Does it make sense? Now, 15 and 16, all I want is LCD. So the top is not even a concern. I just want you to tell me what's the least common denominator. So on 15, if you have 9y, a 3y squared, and a 27y to the 4th, then the LCD would be who? 27 and what? And y to the 4th. Very good. When you're looking for your number, you know it's got to be at least 27 because it's got to be the biggest number that's down there or bigger. You follow me? You're not looking for GCF. You're looking for the common multiple. So that's a bigger number. It has to be able to get rid of the biggest person down there, which is 27. But when I look at 27, before I jump to another number bigger than him, see if he gonna work first. It's 20, and 27 does. 9 and 3 go into 27. So I'm gonna use 27 because it's called the least common denominator. It means the first one all three of them divide into. And then when it comes to our exponents with our variables, you got to pick the bigger one. And that's the rule. So I got a y squared, y to the fourth, y to the fourth. It's got to be big enough to get rid of the other ones. Okay, so that's what a common denominator does. So it has to be 27y to the fourth. 16, I got x squared plus 4x plus 3. Then I have x squared plus 5x plus 4. Then we have x squared plus 7x plus 12. Obviously, we got to do what? Factor. And these little factors. We got x plus 3 and x plus 1. Right, on the first one, because that adds up 3 and 1 to 4. On the second one, what two numbers from 4 going to make 5? And they're both what? Positive, good. And what two numbers from 12 going to make 7? 4 and 3, and they're both what? Positive. That's what I call simple factoring, because all of your numbers come from the back. So your LCD means I need to have a representative of everybody. Okay, your LCD when it comes to these binomials, these parentheses, you got to make sure you show each one of them. So who we got? X plus 3, X plus 1, and X plus 4. Very good. That is a representative of everything that's on the bottom. Does that make sense? You didn't leave nobody out. Okay? Questions? Now, before you write number 17, I changed 17. 17 and 18 are changed. I did y'all's review sheet at night, and I don't like them two problems. So I changed them to two better problems. So this is your 17. Two x minus 6 over 4 plus x plus 5 over 6. Now, this is the part, the lesson that you had to watch on the video, and I hope that you did. Because this section, we took where that 15 and 16, where we get those common denominators, but this time we're dealing with the tops, okay? So, I'm going to stack it so I can do my zigzag deal. And when I look at 4 and 6, what would the least common denominator be? 12. Very good. It has to be big enough to get rid of 6 and 4. So when I say that, I'm using slang term, but it's got to be at least 6 or higher. Because 6 is the biggest denominator. You got a 4 and a 6. And when I say higher, it's got to come out of 6 family, out of his multitude. So that would be 6, 12, 18. You follow me? It has to come out of the family, the multitudes of the 6 group. So that's your 6 multiplication fact. You got what I'm saying? 6 times 1, 6 times 2, 6 times 3. And you get the one that both of them go into first. Don't get too big, because you're going to make this a little messier because you're going to do a lot more reducing. So we're going to use 12 as our least common denominator. All right? Now, what I showed y'all is this little shindig. We're going to say 4 divides into 12. How many times? 3. But you got to take 3 to the what? Top. Now your top don't have just one term on it. It has 2 terms on it. So you got to multiply by both of them. You got to distribute it. Does that make sense? So 3 times 2x is what? 6x. And 3 times negative 6, that's the top. Do you see that? You have transformed that with 12 on the bottom, okay? Same fraction, it just looks a little different. Do the same thing for this bottom one. We're going to say 6 divides into 12 how many times? 2. But you got to multiply 2 times the what? The top. Both things on top. So that would give us, very good, 2x plus 10. Do y'all see that? Now, in this problem, we're adding. So that just means like terms. If you want to write all of this down and then combine it, that's fine. Or you can combine it by looking at it. And what I mean by that is, I'm looking at, and I didn't mean to do the 12, but do y'all follow? I'm doing 6x plus 2x, negative 18 plus 10. That's what I mean by combining like terms. Or you can write it together. I know it looks a little messy. 6x minus 18 plus 2x plus 10 all over 12, but then you still got to combine that stuff. Does that make sense? So I was just trying to cut out rewriting it by you just looking at it. What is 6x plus 2x? 8x minus 8 all over what, 12? Now, looking at that top, is there anything you can do to that top? GCF of 8, if you take it off, what's left? X minus 1, good. So now you got single 8, single 12. That can be what? Reduced. 8 and 12 have who in common? 4. So 4 goes into 8 and goes into 12 3 times. So your answer is 2 times x minus 1 all over who? 3. Do y'all see that? Do y'all see what we did? Okay. $18. And you got a new 18. Your 18 is x plus 2 over 5x minus 6x plus 3 over 3x. Now, this one is a subtraction problem. And so I won't mess up, this is what I want you to do. This second one, you need to do what with that top? You need to, you can either do it now, you're going to do it when I do my little zigzag, okay? But you got to multiply 6x and 3 by that negative. So I put it in parentheses to remind myself. Do you see that? Because some students, most going to put that negative on 6x and not put it on 3. Okay? So you could have rewrote it as a negative 6x minus 3 at that bottom. But I put it in parentheses so when I do my zigzag, I'm going to distribute whatever I carry up there and the negative. Okay? So now let's get this common denominator. You got 5x and you got 3x. 15x. You got to have x. Very good. 15x. That's our least common denominator. Okay? So on this first fraction, 5x divides into 15x how many times? 3. Does everybody understand the x's cancel out? 1 minus 1 is 0, so you're not carrying no x. You're just going to carry 3 to the top. And again, you're going to multiply the entire top by 3, which makes that's going to give us 3x plus 6. Very good. On the bottom one, 3x divides into 15x, 5. Now here, you're going to multiply that whole top by negative 5. When I distribute, that's why I put in parentheses. And I wanted to show one like this because I want to make sure I went over it since we didn't actually meet on Thursday. You need to make sure you know that that's negative 5 that you're distributing because it's a subtraction problem. Okay? So that's going to make that a negative 30x minus 15. Does everyone say that? Okay, so now just combine 3x minus 30x negative 27, ain't it? You can subtract 3 minus 30 is a negative 27. And what's 6 minus 15? Negative 9. Okay, all over 15x. Then what? Who? GCF, greatest common factor. What is it? What type of 9? Negative 9. Go make that negative 9 because they both are what? Negative. So if we take off negative 9, what's left? 3x what? Plus 1. Good. 3x plus 1. Over 15x. And then what? Negative 9 over 15 can reduce. They reduce by 3. So that would make the top negative 3 over 5. Okay, so what we got? Let me rewrite this. We got negative 3 times 3x plus 1 in parentheses over 5x. Very good. That's your answer. Y'all see that? Questions? Ask me questions. No? Okay. 19. 5 over a minus 2b plus 2 over a plus 2b. Okay. What's your least common denominator? Very good. Don't you have to have a representative of both of them? Yep. Now we get into the problems. I gave you 2 of them. Let's go have binomials kind of on the bottom. So you got to include both denominators. Okay? One got the minus 2b, one got the plus 2b. You got to have both of them. Okay? Now when we do our division, we talked about this. The one that you take into the top will be the one that is not the same. The same thing does what? Cancel. And I need that concept to stick. The same thing cancels. So we're going to take to the top who? Very good. The a plus 2b. Does everybody understand that? That's who you multiply by 5. And that means you're going to distribute the 5? And that's going to make Good. 5A plus 10B. Very good. And on the bottom one, who goes to the top? Very good. The A minus 2B. So that's going to make 2A minus 4B. And when we combine 5A plus 2A, 7A, and 10B minus 4B, 6B, all over A minus 2B and A plus 2B. And is there anything you can do to that top? No. That's your answer. Questions? And then number 20. 8 over x squared plus 6x minus 3 over x squared plus 4x minus 12. Okay. So first, we need to do what with these denominators? Factor them so you can see what you got. So on that first one, x squared plus 6x. Huh? What are we doing on the first one? It's GCF, okay? That's straight GCF. It's not differences. You can't do sum of squares. But it's just take off an x. And you're going to have x plus 6 left, right? Then on the second one, we're just going to factor it. We're subtracting to get 4. So what two numbers from 12? And who's going to be positive? 6. 2 is negative. Good. So now what's that common denominator? X plus 6. You got to have single x too now. So don't forget single x because this first one got a single x. And then you got married x plus 6. The bottom one got married x plus 6 and married x minus 2. So you got to have x plus 6, and x minus 2. Does that make sense? You got to represent everybody. Okay? So when I divide, who goes to the top? The x minus 2, because remember the same stuff cancels. The x cancels. X plus 6 cancels. The only thing that is left is the x minus 2. Does that make sense? So we're going to take x minus 2 to the top. And when you take it to the top, you're going to multiply by 8. 8x minus 16. Now on the bottom one, who goes to the top? Just x, right? But you do know this is negative what? 3x. Yeah, I said that because this was a subtraction problem. So make sure you got negative 3x. So when you combine, you only really combining 8x minus 3x, right? Which is, and I bring down minus 16 over x times x plus 6 times x minus 2. Is there anything you can do to that top? No. So that's your answer. Questions? Questions about the review?